Welcome to the first part of GSC Guides, an introduction to the GSC metagame. So, where to start? I'm making these videos to help people just get into GSC because it's a wonderful tier. And let's begin. This is just a Discord person that I saw and it prompted me to watch. I want to make this. So, in the cut content playlist, you're going to find two videos that are basically this, but more rambly, less concise, and I didn't feel like they were up to scratch. But if you really want to, have his lessons hammered home, or whatever, those are something you can watch. But without further ado, let's get into it. We will be using an example team, traditional boom offense. First thing to note about GSC, you have no EVs, essentially. Everything is maxed out. Your IVs are in sets of 15 instead of 32, 31, 32, I don't know what they are in new generations. And hidden power will cut down on them significantly more. It's a reason why hidden power fire is rarely used. Even though it's such great coverage, it really just eats into your bulk. So, let's talk about these EVs. Essentially, because there's only one offensive stat per attack, but there's two defensive stats at play. For example, Snorlax Body Slam. It is coming off of my Snorlax's attack, but hitting into your Snorlax's HP and defense. So essentially, this makes GSC a little, everything is going to feel a lot bulkier. OKOs are rare in this generation. 2-hit KOs are less common. And then 3 and 4-hit KOs are more where it's at. Now, this sounds like it would lend itself easily to stall. But think about this. There's no regenerator in the game. There's no spike stack. You can't stack spikes. Spikes only goes up to 1 layer. And there's some brutally powerful offensive attacks. And the powerful offensive Mons are not glass cannons, like in new generations, where everything in this generation, pretty much everything you're going to put on a team has defensive utility, which is wonderful. Unless you're doing hyper-offensive stuff with Baton Pass, but that is an exception that we'll go into with another video. So what this means is, sure, time to kill is decreased, but your offensive threats, like your Zapdos, isn't going to fall apart so quickly. It's not going to die to a Snorlax Double Edge. It takes 40. And there's no choice band and stuff. But there are still brutally powerful attacks to throw off. So we've talked about what the EV system and DVs do. Now we're going to talk about the big Mons, the most important Mons in this tier. The first and foremost rule is you have a Snorlax on your team, and since I'm teaching offense, you have a Zapdos on your team as your second. Yes, Raiku on offense exists, but you're trying to learn the basics. Learn the basics before trying the fancy stuff is a great way to just get your foot under you. Now, here are the viability ranks. And at the top, given its own tier, I believe is Snorlax. There should be a Snorlax. Yes, S1 rank. These are messy. We want the actual ones. Those are someone's personal viability rankings. Here we go. S1 rank is Snorlax. Snorlax is just, it's the best mon. It does everything. If you want it to be a wall, it is a wall. If you want it to be 4 attacks offensive with boom, Snorlax's self-destruct is the strongest boom in the game. It's the strongest attack in the game. Yeah. Then you can. If you want to be the most the default set is Double Edge, Curse, EQ, Rest. Hits pretty much everything except for Skarmory and Aerodactyl. But Aerodactyl is just, don't use it. It's not worth it. Only on some very, very, very select stall teams or hyper offensive teams can you find a place for Aero. So, Snorlax, it does everything. It can be Toxic, Flamethrower, Double Edge, Rest. It can be Belly Drum stuff. It can be Curse Sweeping. It can be 2 attacks, Rest, Sleep Talk to absorb sleep. It can be Body Slam, Paralysis support. It can be a mono attacker with Pursuit support from Tyranitar. And run Double Edge or Body Slam, Curse, Rest, Sleep Talk. Most commonly, you're going to see Curse 2 attacks. And most commonly, the second attack is EQ. And don't, like, Snorlax always runs normal moves. It always is a normal move. Like, it just falls apart without it. So that's what Snorlax does. It fits any role on any team, essentially. I can be a sleeper with Lovely Kiss, too. So, putting it in new generation terms. On offense, Snorlax is going to be your breaker or your status absorber. This set, demonstrated here, most commonly paired with Steelix, is a breaker. You get it in, because Snorlax is immense defensive utility by switching into basically every special attack in the game. You can fire off your powerful body slams, EQ the ground rocks or the steels. Fire Blast the Fortress and Skarmory and Steelix as well. And then land the most powerful attack in the game against something, preferably the opponent's Snorlax. And you can get at least like a 1.5 for 1 or a 2 for 1 or even a 3 for 1. Because it's not the most common set. So once they see Body Slam EQ, oh, they'll be like, oh, it's fine, I'll send in my Skarmory, and then you Fire Blast it. And then they switch out, and then you boom on their Zapdos. And just, I don't know why that would have Zapdos in that scenario. A bad example. So next up is the Legendary Electric. The Legendary Electric is mandatory on all teams other than the exceptions of Baton Pass, basically. And some select types of stall. But we're learning offense. And you use Thunder in this tier, not Thunderbolt. There's 2 reasons for that. The extra bulk afforded to you by the different EV system means that you can afford to miss a Thunder every once in a while. And second, just because Snorlax. Literally Snorlax. Like, seriously, just Snorlax. Using Thunder doubles your odds to break a Lax. Yeah, out of a rest loop. They're not great odds, but it's more. But it's more so just like, Lax doesn't mind switching into Thunderbolts. It doesn't like Thunderbolts with spikes, and it gets really irritated by Thunder with spikes. Keep forcing that, and the Snorlax is going to have to rest pretty shortly. So, Legendary Electric. The other option is Raiku. It doesn't have, it's like physically frailer than Zapdos. It's weak to EQ. But it is the best. It's one of the best like Thunder Soakers. Raiku, even on stall, is the default special wall. Yes, Raiku, this offensive Pokemon that runs Thunder. Raiku also uses Thunder. The paralysis chance is also really good. So, Raiku also fits here, but Zapdos it's just so much stronger. The extra special attack really makes a huge difference. It's really, like, you can just feel it once you play enough. And, Zapdos' like, Spikes immunity is amazing. And, yeah. So, next up is your normal resistant phaser. See, Curslax is the defining sweeper. So therefore, every team should pack, other than Baton Pass, should pack a Pokemon that resists normal moves and that has a phasing move. So Roar for Steelix. These are the following Pokemon: Golem, Rhydon, Skarmory, Steelix, and Tyranitar. There are, like, technically there are other Pokemon that resist normal and other phasers, but with the default structure that I'm teaching, you have a normal resistant phaser, and this default structure is it's consistent. It allows you just to play the game and not feel weak to anything in particular, like not feel devastatingly weak to stuff. So normal resistant phaser, and your fourth slot is your spiker. And your fourth slot is your electric check, your second electric check. Snorlax is good at switching into electric moves, but if it's not rest, or even just like if it's your only switch in, that's really abusable and you can get beaten down really hard. And just forced to rest, and then they can capitalize on your rest with their Snorlax or something else. Yeah. So you need your secondary electric insurance, which normally also is your normal resistant phaser, because Golem's a ground type. Sure, this makes him weak to Hidden Power Water and Hidden Power Ice, which is what Zapdos and Raiku carry as a second move. We'll get like HP Water. It lowers your bulk significantly. So you look at that massive drop in DVs from HP Ice. And sure, you're down to 7 from 15. It really does make a difference. It really does. Like, look how low this is going to go. 383. To 367. You're losing so much HP. But the benefit of Hidden Power Water is hitting the electric checks better. Other than Eggy. It hits everything the same or does more damage, except for Eggy. But then you're brutally walled by Eggy, and that just absolutely sucks. But you slam Steelix for 40, you can, like, murder Rhydon after spikes, Golem only needs a little bit of chip damage before you kill it. And it's the same on pretty much other things. It does get annoying sometimes after Hidden Power, after Thunder Zapdos, if you're in a Zapdos 1v1. When you could just when they're in Hidden Power Ice range, that does get annoying. But Hidden Power Water is definitely a viable option. Just beware of Eggy murking you because of it. So Steelix, the secondary electric check. The others are Raikou, Nidoking. Rhydon doesn't count in my book, neither does Marowak, because Rhydon just it takes so much from Hidden Power Ice, let alone we're pretending like there's no Hidden Power Water. We use Zapdos versus Rhydon. Look at that. Hidden Power Ice is doing up to 53. With Spikes down, it's a 92% chance to just kill your Rhydon in 2 hits. You can't really switch into Zapdos with Rhydon very well. Rhydon is, because its special defense is so low. And now let's look at Hidden Power Water. Look at that. Just kills it after spikes. Straight up kills. Yeah. So that's why I don't count Rhydon as an electric check. Golem gets away with it a little better because HP Water, if you're switching in, you're probably pivoting into Thunder, but HP Hidden Power Ice, it doesn't really 2-hit KO. Yeah. It's better. It's significantly better with Golem. Steelix is the best of the bunch, which is why 4 attacks, non-Reslax is often paired with Steelix, is because Steelix does a much better job of taking on the electrics usually than the other ones do. Raiku, after overall, is the best. And that's why it's the default special wall on small teams. Marowak can pivot in. It can take 2 hidden powers from Zapdos if there's not spikes up. But Marowak does not heal, and you want to be preserving that health so that when your late game sleep is coming through, if there's, unless of course like Zapdos is paralyzed and everything, but you get your SD off, you can live a hidden power, and then you can murk at the team, your opponent's team. And then, so most of the time, you're packing a ground type, or a Raikou. Eggy also helps. Nidoking doesn't phase, but it does help against Zapdos, and Raikou helps a lot against Raikou. Zapdos actually wins the 1v1, but it still, the purpose is to alleviate the burden of Snorlax, so that Snorlax isn't always just having to take Thunders left, right, and center. It's kind of like dissuading the opponent from using Volt Switch, where they can't always just spam the Volt Switch move because you're considering a ground type. So, like, Snorlax takes hidden powers from Zapdos and Raikou like they're nothing. So it just allows for pivoting, and then just eases the burden on Lax. Most of the time, so let's recap. You have your Snorlax slot, your Zapdos slot, your normal resistant phaser slot, your electric check slot, which is also usually your normal resistant phaser. If you're using Tyranitar, you need a backup against electric, so Nidoking Tyranitars are pretty good. Eggy can help against that. Yeah. And then your 5th or 4th slot, depending on if you have roll compression going on, is your Cloyster. Because you're using offense. Sure, Fori is kind of nice on offense because it lives Thunder. Cloyster is one of the few Mons that actually can die in one hit in this generation to electric moves. But nevertheless, if we look at our viability rankings, you see it's popped up right beneath Zapdos. And I've been talking about how you should just have Zapdos on your team. It's so good. Like, I can't say the amount of times I've just said Zapdos, 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 Zapdos. Cloyster is not as metagame defining, but it is super. It is metagame defining. What Cloyster does is it's just Spiker. Surf, Spikes, Toxic, Explosion, use the set please. If you're, like, it just allows you to play the game versus stall better if you have Toxic on Cloyster. It really sucks to run into stall when you're running Hidden Power Electric Cloyster, or even worse, Ice Beam Cloyster. Well, no, Ice Beam, I'd take Ice Beam over HP Electric against stall. You see Rapid Spin here. That would be nice, right? Having a Rapid Spinner? That's why Golem's so good, right? Rapid Spin and Boom are illegal on Cloyster if you have both of them, so you can only do one of them. And Boom is so much more preferred. Surf plus Boom just makes it an offensive threat, and it gets spikes up. It switches into Lax because it just tanks Lax with the amazing defense stat. Gets spikes up against it. Toxic also allows you to deny Lax from just setting up, like, if it starts cursing as you come in, you can Toxic it and then force it to rest and then go to your normal resistant phaser. That is an option you have. And in this generation, pretty much the exception to the Oko rule that nothing really takes Okos other than from Zapdos Thunder if you're a Cloyster or a Starmie, is that Booms just take kills. They do so much damage. It's kind of ridiculous. Sure, you're doing like 50 to at most to normal resists, but then just don't hit normal resist. That's why Surf plus Explosion is so good, because Surf hits all the normal resists. Cloyster Explosion doesn't even always kill Lax from full HP, but Explosion this generation deny your opponent's turn if you're faster, so like the Lax can't just rest as you boom on it, and then you can just go to, for example, your Zapdos and threaten it out from there. Or if the spikes down, like, yeah, it's just great. So, we've talked about the slots that you need to have, and there's one more, but it fits on a couple of the slots. Your status absorber, specifically your sleep talker, because there are there's the default sleep talker is Zapdos. It's just good. Like Rest, Sleep Talk, Thunder, HPI, Zapdos is just good. You stay healthy, you stay threatening when you're asleep, you just keep firing off thunders all game long. And this absorbs sleep perfectly. Like Zapdos is a great sleep absorber for one of the best sleepers. Well, for two of the best sleepers, Eggy and Nidoking. But what Zapdos cannot do is safely absorb sleep from Jinx, which is the third prominent sleeper. So you want a sleep talker that absorbs from Jinx. And the options for this are Snorlax, Raiku, Vaporeon. And I feel like I'm missing one. Missing one or two. Heracross does not. Sleep Talk Skarmory is on stall. Suicune's on stall. Umbreon's on stall. It's pretty much those. Usually Sleep Talk lacks. And usually you drop Curse for Sleep Talk. Or if you have Pursuit, you drop EQ for Sleep Talk. Houndoom is a different beast altogether. It doesn't Sleep Talk, but it takes out Jinx. Yeah. So that's how you're absorbing Sleep Talk from Sleep moves from Jinx. And then just note if you're having your only Sleep Talker be Raiku, you might have a hard time against Nidoking sometimes. So in this team, this is traditional boom offense. You've got 4 booms, a Zapdos, and the +1 slot. This can be a Machamp, this can be other stuff. We're putting a Vaporeon here because Surf, Growth, Rest, Sleep Talk. Vaporeon takes a chunk from Psychic, but you're good enough at pivoting into Jinx. And just taking sleep. So let's recap. Snorlax slot, Zapdos slot, or Raiku. Normal resistant phaser. Electric check, which is usually normal resistant phaser. Cloyster. And then try and have a sleep talker that absorbs from Jinx. So this usually creates a structure of 4 or 5. What about your +2 or +1 Mons? Well, it really depends. Offensive teams use some Mons that are commonly seen. You've got Gengar out in the +1 or +2 slots. Heracross is less commonly seen. Machamp is less commonly seen. Just because they're just not common. Nidoking is very, very good in the slots. It does sleep, it does attack, it does thief stuff. We'll talk about thief in a different video. Some players really like Starmie on offense. I don't. You just kind of lose tempo. Vaporeon's a big one. Having 2 electrics. Zapdos, Raiku is actually pretty great. The UUBLs, the offensive ones like Zam, Jinx fits in there. Eggy fits in here. Gengar, Marowak. There's just a lot of choices that you can go with. But I think I've explained decently the basic offensive structure of it. When in doubt, Snorlax, Zapdos, Golem, Cloyster. +2. You'll be fine. Ish.